just click on this icon. Hi, my name is Daniel and I'm here with another tutorial. In fact, we'll be starting a journey together. Well, what am I talking about exactly? Today I'll be starting a guide for beginners on how to use Photoshop. So let's just call it Understanding Photoshop Season 1 Episode 1. So without further philandering, let's dive in. When you first open Photoshop, you'll be welcome to the gallery section. All this section is the gallery section. This is where your previous work will be showcased. This is where they will be displayed. Then you have two options to choose from, which is create new and open. With that being said, some older versions of Photoshop does not have the gallery section. So lesson number 1, try as much as possible to update your Photoshop. Try and update it so that you get some new features that will make Photoshop easier for you. Okay, even if you don't have, it is still the same thing. Just by going to files here and clicking new will take you here, and this is the same page as clicking here, and it is also the same thing as pressing Ctrl N on your keyboard. So this is the page where you can either choose from different templates that are here. We have the photos, we have the prints, we have art and illustrations, we have the web, the mobile, different sizes, different layouts here. Then we have the video and the film, and you can also go on and create your own. I can choose 1080 by 1080, which is the default Instagram format, and I can choose the orientation if I want it to be portrait or landscape. Then I'll choose a resolution of 72. Then let's just go to create. So that will take us to the default Photoshop Workspace, and I can off the guide. You can turn off the guide by going here, click on it, and the guide is off. Okay, don't forget that outside the gallery section there were two options, that is the create new and the open. So let's go back. The open option will open the image directly for you to use. So I can go on to, I can just pick any image I want, and yeah, as you can see, our image is opened. You can also open by pressing Ctrl O on your keyboard, which will take us to the lesson number 2, which is try and familiarize yourself with some basic keyboard shortcuts in Photoshop, as this will make Photoshop more easier for you. Alright, let's get going. So first of all, let's talk about the Photoshop Workspace. On the top layer here is where you can access the menu bar, where you'll find file, edit, image, layers, types, and so on and so forth. Below the menu bar is the option bar. This bar right here is the option bar, where you will be able to edit different settings of whatsoever tools you choose. You can change the brush opacity, you can change the blend mode from this option bar. Below the option bar is the document bar. This is where all the documents you're working on will be. Don't forget that before we open this image, there was one we created, which is an empty canvas, and we can still go back by just clicking on it. I can bring it out. I can bring it out like this. I can take it back in. So that is that for the document bar. Then by the right hand side we have the toolbar. You can change your toolbar to double or single. In fact, I prefer the double, but for the sake of this tutorial I'll be using the single. Before talking about the tools and what each of them stands for and what they do, there is one important thing again to talk about, which is by the left hand side here, and this is the panel tab. This is where you find the swatches, the gradients, the properties, the adjustments, and they are very, very important and essential. And below that is the layer bar. In Photoshop, layers are very important to any design workflow, since they are used to work on individual parts of an image while not affecting other parts. They allow you to modify your image, to change color, to add text, to do anything, to manipulate your pictures, anything you want to do everything starts from this layer bar here. So you can think of the layer bar as the transparent pane of glass stacked on top of one another, which allows different parts of each layout to show through. There are several types of layers used in Photoshop, but they all fall into mainly two categories. We have content layer, which consists of different types of content like photograph, text, shapes, icons, and so on and so forth. And also we have the adjustment layer. This adjustment layer allows you to apply adjustment to the layer below them, like saturation, brightness, contrast. Adjustment layer are type of non-destructive editing because they don't actually change anything about the original image. But in case you can't find the adjustment layer on your panel, it's simple to enable. Just go to Windows, and here you see layouts. Click on it, it's gone. To bring it back, F7, it's back. That's the shortcut for bringing out the layouts. I don't know why you want to disable layers anyways, but let's go on. Moving on, let's talk about what this toolbar actually represents and what they do. Meanwhile, in future videos, I'll be taking all these elements individually, and I'll be talking extensively on how to work with them and how to understand them more and more. Moving on, let's talk about what this layout toolbar represent and what they do. The first one here is the link layout button. You can use this to link your layout together, but it is not visible because we are only having just one layout. So the next one here is the effect or layer style button. It is also not visible because our layout is actually locked. So there's nothing we can do on this layout. In order to unlock, all you have to do is click on this lock button here, and voila, it is unlocked. And as you can see, our effect is visible, where we can see the blending option. We have the bevel and emboss, the stroke, color overlay, and so on and so forth. Next one we have is the mask layer button. You can use this to add masks to your layout. We'll talk about it in future videos. Let's just move on. The next one is the adjustment layout. Remember, adjustment layout does not contain content. It simply allows to apply adjustments to the layout below it. I can go on and add a solid color to this. Let's choose color blue. Okay, as you can see, it is not showing because our adjustment layout is sitting on top of our image layout. It's just like laying a bigger rug on top of a smaller rug. The smaller one is not going to be visible unless you remove the bigger rug. That is just how layer works. This is not going to show because the blue color is covering the whole screen, and it is sitting right on top of our image layout. In order to show it, here is this button here. This is the layer visibility button. Pressing it will hide it, and pressing it again will unhide it. So if there is a layer you're working with but you don't want to work with it again, or you just want to move on to the next thing, you can simply hide it, and if you are true, you can unhide it. So another thing we can do is to reorder this layout. We can do that by holding our left click and dragging it below our image layout. And as you can see, our image layer is now on top and our color adjustment layer is below. So I can take it back, I can bring it up, I can take it back. I can also undo or redo by pressing Ctrl Z, which stands for undo on the keyboard, or Ctrl Shift Z, which is the redo button. So Ctrl Z for undo, Ctrl Shift Z for redo. So moving on, the next button we have here is our group button. With this we can organize our layouts. Let's say I have 20 picture layouts and I have 20 text layouts and I want to organize them. I can rename this into picture. You can rename by double clicking on it, and then I can create a new group by pressing Ctrl G on my keyboard, and I can change this to text. Then I can move it anywhere I want to move it. But in this scenario, this picture group is inside this in one. So if I should bring this up, as you can see, it is not showing. If I should drop it down, now you can see the picture group, and I can also delete them because we'll not be using group for now. Then the next one we'll be talking about is the new layer button. With this you can create a new layer, and in fact you can create as many as you like If there is a particular picture you're working on and you want to duplicate layout, you can just right click on it, which will bring more layer options for you, and there you will find duplicate layout. Press OK. You can delete it and simply press Ctrl J, which also stands for the duplicate, and you can duplicate your picture as many as you want. Now this next button is the delete layout button, which you can use to delete your layer. It will ask you, press yes, or you can simply drag it to it and it will delete, or just by pressing delete on your keyboard, which is also the same thing as the delete. That is that about the toolbar here. Next we want to talk about is the blend mode. We have different blend mode that we can choose, and all of these blend mode differs from each other. What you use multiply to do is not the same thing as what you use darker color to do. In this particular video, I will not be talking in details about these different blend modes, but I'll be making a separate video where I'll be talking extensively on how and what to use each different blend mode for. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell icon so that anytime I drop a new video, you'll be the first to see it. And in fact, I wonder why you haven't up to now. Well, subscription is free. Do that now. Thank you. So notice the effect that happened just by hovering over each of these blend modes. So moving on, we have the opacity. This is where you can increase or reduce the opacity on a layout. Let's say for instance, this color adjustment layout is sitting on top of this one here, and I go to opacity. Notice what happens if I reduce it. As you can see, the opacity is reducing, and if I move the slider up to 100% again. So same thing for fill. If I reduce and if I increase, that's that about that. Next, let's talk about the filter panel. This is where you can choose the category of what you want to be seen in the layout panel. You have name, effects, mode, attribute. If I choose color, our picture is gone because it is a picture and not a color. If I choose effect, none of this layer is having effect, so none of them is going to be showing. So you can change it back to kind. Here you can filter for picture, here you can filter for adjustment layer, here is text, and so on and so forth. So that is that for that. Before I go, let's go back to the menu bar so we can familiarize ourselves with it. In the file menu mode, you have the option to save, open, create new, place embed, print, and so on and so forth. Moving on, we have the edit mode where you can copy and paste, you can cut, you can undo, you can redo, and so on. Moving on, we have the image mode where I can adjust the image as I want, but I'm not clicking on the image, so therefore most of these options are not usable. Let's click on it and go back. As you can see, they are here now. I can go to adjust and adjust it as I want. I can change the vibrance. As you can see, I can do anything. I can desaturate it and so on and so forth. You have wides of options to choose from here. You can invert, match color. Here is the layout menu where you can choose layout style. You can rename layout from here. You can choose layout mask and so on and so forth. You can even create a new layer from here. The type menu is all about text, anything that has to do with your text. If you want to manage missing fonts, change panel, change paragraph and characters, that is what you can do with the type menu bar. Then we have the select where you can select the layout, you can select and mask, you can deselect the layer from here, and then you have the filter menu where you can change different filter. You can apply blur, you can apply noise. Let's go on and apply blur for the fun of it. As you can see, anything is possible here. Then we have the 3D option. If you're working with a 3D model, this is where you want to be. Then you have the view where you can change the ruler, you can enable ruler, you can enable grid, you can change the guide, you can zoom in, you can zoom out from here. Then we have the windows. This is where you can arrange the windows. You can choose the workspace you want. You can even add anything to the panel bar. Let's say I want to add characters to it. As you can see, character is here now. You can change anything you want here. You can put a library, you can even add notes here from here, as you can see. And lastly, we have the help bar, just like I am doing. This is where you come to if you need any help about a tool, about what's new, about anything whatsoever. Then next we have the invite to edit if you have an Adobe account. Then here is a very useful feature, the search bar. Let's say you're looking for a tool and you don't know how to go about it. Let's say I'm looking for Lasso Tool, although it is L on your keyboard. Just press Lasso, and as you can see, it has brought out the 3 Lasso tool that we have, which is the Lasso, the polygonal, and the magnetic Lasso tool. And I can simply choose from it here, and you can see Lasso tool is being selected. That is that for the search bar. Then here you have the workspace, where you can change. If I'm working with a 3D model and I want to make things easier for me, I can just change it to 3D workspace. And as you can see, this is the 3D workspace. I can change it back to graphics and web if I want to be working on web, photography. As you can see, this is Instagram. Because I have desaturated this picture, the Instagram is not showing any color spectrum. So back to our essential. All right, the next one here is the share button if you want to share your image to the Adobe Creative platform. And yes, that is that for the first episode. Thank you for joining. If there is any question, or if there is any tool you want me to talk about, if there is anything whatsoever you want me to talk about in my videos, please let's talk in the comment section. I'll try as much as possible to answer our questions and to simplify them. Thank you, I really appreciate you, and I hope you keep creating. I hope you keep practicing. Until next time I come your way, peace out.